Good morning. What's up, YouTube? So I just finished knocking out a fuel system on this Whipple Mustang. Oh, fuel cap's open. But today's video ain't gonna be about that. Let's take a walk in the shop. So I have a built stroked LS3 with a Maggie on it. I just put all this back in and put his trains and everything back in. He just got the motor back from the machine shop, getting a forged stroke rotating assembly and stuff put in. So today's video, I've already kind of got started. So this car used to have nitrous. You can see some of the holes. Whoever installed his bottle bracket, I think it used to sit right here. So I'm going to kind of reuse this space, and it looks like somebody carpeted like a nice piece of wood, probably to mount to. So I'm starting to take all this apart. I'm going to be pulling that little molding back out and utilizing that piece of wood, because we are going to be putting an AM water meth kit in this thing, because he didn't really use the nitrous. And I got to talking to him about my truck, because my truck is on 93 octane pump gas, and I supplement with meth, you know, for the octane bump, and also you know, methanol helps keep your intake temps down. So I'm spraying meth right through my blower, and so we'll be doing the same thing on this. Okay guys, so this is where we're at right now. I made these brackets. I had them in my little miscellaneous drawer. So these, I kind of did like a little stud. It's a bolt, you know, with a washer and a nut sticking off the bracket, and that's gonna angle the top of the tank out, so it'll be a little easier to access to fill. All right, got the tank all mounted up. So you can see the outlet's not touching, so there won't be like no rattle since it's kicked back. And since I'm going to be mounting the pump down in here sideways, there's actually room underneath all this where this factory where that factory wiring is. So I'll be able to run the line off the bottom of the tank, pointed it back basically. It'll be running from behind and then under this, so they'll all be hidden down to the pump. Okay, got those holes drilled. These aren't tight yet, I was just test fitting, so these will basically act as studs. And another hole pre-drilled with a grommet for the actual feed line. And so you can see, do like a loose test fit. What I'm going to end up doing is put the pump on the studs, and then I'll tighten the studs down. So that'll sit like that, and then those washers and lock nuts will hold the pump. And then I came right off the pump with a 90. So what I'm going to do, this is, you know, the intake for the pump, and then so the outlet will be a direct 90, and I'm going to loop, basically, you know, like loop back around and hit this hole. I wanted to come out high side, or as high as possible, not low. I'll show you why. Zoom out. So there's the studs, and then there's that hole. You have this big old brace thing, you know, and here's the passenger muffler. So I want it as high as possible, so I can run under this, like through that little channel there. The lighting's terrible, and I'm gonna just basically route it as high up as possible, away from everything. So basically away from all the suspension and everything, and then I'll basically go down the car by the body. I gotta find where is yeah, you can see it down there. some of that stainless fuel line, and that's where his nitrous line. So I'm gonna basically chase to that, like find something close to that, and then I'll end up putting something around the tubing to protect it too. If any of it's exposed like that, I'll find something to cover it with, or I might be able to sneak it somewhere else where it stays unexposed, basically. Okay, so the pump is mounted. Ain't going nowhere. All nice rubber mounts too. I ended up adding a 90. I didn't like the way this bend was kind of looking, considering the top of that has to be below this edge here, so it all fits under that big plastic piece that covers all this. So that's what we're looking like. I already connected the tank, so you can see that line will run tucked all behind that, so you won't see any of that. So it's all super clean. I'm going to start running the tubing up to the front, and then I'm also going to go back behind this again and run all my wiring all the way to back here, because you have to supply power and ground to the pump off the controller. And then I'm going to mount the controller probably in the glove box, and then I'll find somewhere in the dash to do the status light if the customer wants that, or he can just look at the controller if he wants to see the status. There's also a light on that too. But I'm gonna put this in the air and start working on running this tubing, and then I'll come back and show you how I ran it. Okay, I got the let me get this light. Got all the wiring, focus, ran under the back seat in that corner, basically, and everything's tucked up underneath this rear trunk molding, so it all comes around. There's already like a pre-existing little notch, so I got the wiring for the level sensor running through that. The tank is mounted, so as you can see, just completely out of the way. Their amp is on that side for their car stereo, but yeah, the tank has a nice, decent little tilt to it, so you can definitely access the top of this, and you could use a flex hose to fill it, so you don't have to remove the tank to be able to refill it. Not finished up top, so here's the main wiring to the control. So that was as to this pumps. So the wiring is, you're not going to see it. It's basically ran all the way up under this plastic. I just followed where some of their power wires going to his pumps were, up into that corner. It'll all be tucked out of the way. Nothing moves against this area. So seatbelt's down here on top of it, so it'll never touch or rub. And then I'm gonna finish running this down this channel. I got just enough slack, so all this will run up here by the kick panel, and then I'm gonna run into the glove box from the back side. So what I did was, that is a switched hot, which I don't ever recommend doing that, but that was his arming switch, I think, for his nitrous. So I'm gonna use that, because in the wiring for this Meth kit, there is a switched 12 volt to activate the system. So I'm piggybacking off of what was already in the car, so that'll be the arming switch for the Meth. So when you hit that toggle, it goes to this red wire. It's a switched 12 volt. That'll go to the yellow wire in the harness, and then basically that'll tell the controller to turn on, so it'll arm the Meth system. And then I already have his vacuum tubing pre-ran. Alright, got all that tucked down in there. Have to put this molding back in. Comes up. It's this little bundle here. Comes up, all tucked away. Get the light. Comes up and around. And then I zip tied right there, pretty much to hold how much slack that little pigtail is. And so that never pinches. It's gonna kind of move, but I did 3M tape on the back of that. So I want to be able to close this and make sure those wires aren't going to get pulled. So basically make sure you had enough slack when this is open to where it doesn't, if you did too short when you went to open it, it would just yank it out. So I'm going to put all this plastic molding back in, and the last thing to do will be finish running the hard line to the engine. Quick look with all the trim back in. Alright, so before we finish running that line, do a quick test. Nice thing about AEM's kit, they got a test feature. So we'll just key on to accessory. I already put all the stuff back in the glove box. So hit this arm switch and that should power on the system. Good. See that light will mimic that light. Not the color, but the flashing. That blinking light is low fluid, by the way. I just added some. It's not high enough for that sensor, but I did add some distilled water in there. You can see some sitting in there. So it is low, so you can see that sensor is working because that fluid level is below that sensor. But we can still test it because I know fluid's in there. So I got that just run into this jug, and what you do is you can reach in there and push the test button. It's gonna take a while to prime all this. There it goes. Let's pull this out some. There you go. Okay, line is ran. So there's the nozzle threaded in. It's tucked basically all up here, all the way around. It goes basically up inside the fender and around there. So I put some loom to protect it from the hole it's passing through. The light will show down there. So it's running down this channel. Runs down there. I have a 90-degree fitting, and it passes through this, and then it's basically following the fuel line, and it's loomed all the way. Everywhere it's exposed, it's loomed. And it runs up there. My fuel line, so it goes down, back around. It's completely above all the suspension back here, so it can't get pinched or crushed by anything. You can see it right there. It's running. It's gonna be impossible to show you, but it's running way over all this. And back to the hole, and goes inside to the pump. I might end up putting the 90 basically right there too if I have to. It doesn't look like none of that's bent in like a weird bend or nothing like that, so it should be okay. Alright guys, that'll wrap up today, this video. Got the plastic piece back in and she's done. Came out pretty clean. After running the line, I removed it, you know, from here, and I'll actually run some more distilled water through the thing, just because as you're shoving that line against all that stuff, I'm sure it's picking up like a little bit of dirt the way you're just running the line. Unless you, or you could cap the end. I didn't, but I know I'm gonna purge the line and blow, basically push any dirt that's in there out of it before I actually hook into the nozzle. So you don't want to clog up the nozzle or spray some dirt down in your motor if you can help it. But yeah, what do you guys think? Came out pretty cool, huh? This car's a beast. I'm gonna give it a quick bath tomorrow, and I'll text the customer and let them know his car is ready. So this was an LS3 6-speed car. I pulled the motor and trans a few months ago for him. He sent the motor off to the machine shop to have a forged stroker, basically rotating assembly put in. The heads got ported and all that stuff, and then he brought it back to me to reinstall the motor and transmission, etc., and then to do the meth. So yep, it was a fun car. Sure it'll hurt some feelings on the street, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.